this is one of those panels that I'll play to my daughters when I go back home, because my oldest wants to be an engineer, and so I'm talking to a computer scientist here, and I think we'll have a very nice chat about the potential of technology and AI. To give you a little bit of context before I start, the dialogue with Hissah, I think we're going to see a video about what SCAI is doing in development, applied to sports mostly, but that shows all the potential that there is. So whenever you can, please play the video.
Every field is waiting for a player who stands out as the MVP, the joker, the GOAT, and the fans' beloved athlete. Dominates the midfield, defends strong, and scores big. Not just a footballer, but a pro in golf, tennis, table tennis, boxing, volleyball, and basketball too. A player who masters every game, nailing the toughest shots, and maneuvering every twist. Not just the talent. It's the power of data and AI. Brought to you by SportNative. To elevate team performances, transforms fan experiences, uncovers rising stars. A product suite that boosts performance, discovers talents, and enhances experience across all sports. SportNative, champion of all games.
Okay. It's amazing. Thank you for making this panel possible.
And really, thank you so much, everyone, and good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. And it's really a great pleasure to be here today, and I'm sure that we will have an interesting conversation.
Absolutely. So I want to start first. The sports industry that we all love is very fun, but it's also a little bit complex because of the different stakeholders. If you look at athletes, the clubs, then the organizations, leagues, federations, whatever it is, and the fans around everything, right? Yeah. So in your experience and what you are trying to build at SCAI, how do you see AI being a transformational tool to actually be able to enable all the stakeholders to achieve their objectives?
It's a great really question to start this panel with. Maybe we can just talk more about how AI being a transformation tool in the sport ecosystem. So when we look at the advancement of AI, when it was just a futuristic concept that is being discussed with the teams, with the players, and to really being now a cornerstone with every team, with every organizer. If we look at how we advance from just having basic stats of the game into really having this predictive insights towards the game being played. If we look at how we transformed from just using the optical tracking system with the manual annotation to the actual use of systems to automate and analyze the terabytes of data of game footage. We can see that really AI have transformed how the athletes play, how the teams compete, how the organizers plan, how the fan actually engages with the game. If we look at athletes and the work that we are doing here in SCAI about how we can use AI and the tools and the systems to analyze the performance analysis. And I'm sure that throughout this conversation we will talk more about the use of AI and the advancement of AI, and also the importance of having a proper AI system being trained on your own data sets, or having inclusive data sets within the training of this AI system. Then we have around the coaches, for example, and how we can use AI to adjust the tactics of certain games. And if we go to teams, for example, usually the struggle that we see based on our conversation with different teams is the challenges. There is a lot or a huge amount of data sources that they are dealing with on a daily basis, from the performance systems that they have, from the operation systems, from, for example, the fan system or the social media. How can they streamline this operation of managing this huge amount of data to really get the insights and the information needed to make proper decisions. To the organizers, for example, and how we can use AI for security and safety for the fans, and of course for the fans and how they engage with the game. I mean, it's not just technology that have really evolved, but also the fans and how they engage with the game. And at SCAI, we really look at this transformation from how we can make sure that the global technologies, the expertise really adapt to the local content and the local players that we have here within the kingdom.
Okay. Actually, zooming in a little bit on practical side of what you do at SCAI, you are a fairly young company. That's
correct. 3 years old. Yeah.
3 years old, so I'm making strides at 3 years old. I couldn't walk at 3 years, I believe. So, the thing is that when you look at sports operations and the handling of an organization from the sporting side, we now live in a data-driven era, right? I remember for as long as I've been in the industry, data. That has been the mantra. But that comes with a interesting paradox. The more data you have, the more complex it is to actually to be able to do it, to manage it and to be able to understand it even. So how do you, from SCAI, actually drive transformation, not only in terms of systems, but actually in terms of mentality even, in terms of how to approach the data processing process, right?
That's a very important question whenever we approach any AI use case in any industry or a system. Like, what are the really data points that we should be focusing on collecting? What are the really data points that really matters? And especially if we look at games or sports like football, where there is literally terabyte of data being generated in every game. But what are the important data that we need to focus on? And that's really where the beauty of machine learning and having these statistical models that will help us test and optimize based on our use case. So if we take, for example, the performance analytics use case, and one of the things that we really want to focus on in SCAI is that especially as having these 3 years old predictors, like, for example, on-ball value or the XG, they are newly introduced to the game, and now they are literally a cornerstone for each team and how they evaluate the players and the teams. But the work that we do in SCAI is that how can we make sure that we get accurate as well predictors and accuracy for these indicators by making sure that we train this systems, the models, on our data system, on our data sets in terms of the leagues, in terms of the data that we get from the clubs, to make sure that we get an accurate value, for example, for these predictors. And really working with each use case and making sure that it's not just one product that we are selling here in SCAI, but working with the stakeholder to understand the challenge, to understand what does success look like, and from there we can really drive what are the data that is needed and how we can work with it and how can we localize it and make it into the context that we need.
Okay. Actually, you mentioned, that the precision needed, the timeliness needed in terms of actually managing data and being able to extract value to be able to have an impact on the operations, right? So the case, to go a little bit more deeper, in the case of the protagonists of the sports, which are the athletes, which are the essential actors of what we're doing, timeliness, precision, it is really, really important, especially in things related to performance, like injury, prevention, and recuperation, their own evolution as players. So can you tell us a little bit more in terms of any case study or example that you can have or vision in terms of how to apply data and AI to athlete performance?
That's a very, and really, it's an interesting question. If we look at that at the moment, the way that we are analyzing the game, we're analyzing it after it happens. But how can we use AI systems to really analyze what's happening, like in real time during the game, or even how the players are thinking during the game? What are the process of thinking to make a certain decision within the field? And this is something that is when we look at research and development of the use of AI in a sport is how can we look into not just the after fact, the analysis of the game, but as I said, how we can within the field analyze and understand how the players are thinking so that we can have certain tools or adjustments of the way that making these decisions. Another factor to look at, for example, is not only to focus on the events with the player having the ball, because that's usually just 20% of the game, but looking at the 28%, what is the player is actually doing while he's not having the ball? How is this affecting really the game strategy, the tactics, looking at new indicators that we can introduce by having that space analysis between the players. And that's what we want, again, to focus on in SCAI. We're not here to reinvent the wheel. We work already with the global companies that focus on performance data, but also we want to equip it with a new innovative use cases like the analyzing off-ball movement and how it's affecting the game.
Actually, that's brought me a good memory. I come from the basketball world, and actually the coaches, the most elevated coaches, actually focus more on off-ball activity in terms of actually moving what happens on the court, and actually that's very interesting. And imagine if you could do that on real time on the bench and actually be able to adjust.
You never know, like maybe in the future, in 5 years, you'll have a system whispering to the player, do this move, don't do that move. You never know what's happening, like with this explosion of really advancement in AI. Like we can see how ChatGPT really transformed the enterprise, and we are looking into a new also breakthrough when it comes to sport and how the game is being played and engaged with.
Actually, let's look a little bit broader in terms of the outward vision, and let's put it on two stages, right? So tell us a little bit more about the importance about developing solutions, AI-based solutions, in collaboration, not only with your clients and partners, which I believe is more a collaborative than actually transactional, because you are trying to help them build a tool, a specific tool, but also with other companies, with other estimates in the ecosystem. And let's talk a little bit more about what is the stage of that type of collaboration and development at the Saudi and MENA region level.
Yeah, we're actually embedded within the ecosystem, within the region. We work across with different stakeholders within the ecosystem. Even in terms of, since SCAI is also a PIF company, working with our sister company, for example, Search, who focus really on the investment on the sporttech, making sure that we are aligned in terms of where we should be focusing our strategy in terms of use cases and solutions. And overall, working with the different tiers from working with the leagues to the authorities that are governing this game, to even now working on the fan level or developing the B2C products as well. Especially that SCAI, we're already working on the media sector, and we're making advancement on the personalized content, targeted content, and how can we get that use cases into the adjacent sector that we are working in right now in a sport.
Okay, interesting. And it's something that the world is so vast, and for us that are outside of the region, it's actually very difficult to understand that even within a region, not everything is the same. So you need to have that context, right?
And honestly, I believe like Saudi is the only country that can really do it right when it comes to sport. We have the great ecosystem, we have great infrastructure, we have great talent, we have the vision, we have the great leaders, and I'm confident that we will really exemplify what a good sport tech solution that we are going to export globally, not just working locally and within the region.
Yeah, I mean, what we were discussing before, you have the determination to actually be able to transform not only your economy, your country, your way of being, but actually to be able to be a beacon for the region and by extension, the rest of the world.
It's the passion, and that's the beauty of the football. It's actually the passion, and that's what you can see also with everyone that is working with Saudi. It's really the passion towards the vision that we're creating.
And going a little bit deeper in terms of collaboration, now we are almost wrapping up, but actually focusing more on that piece, but from the international perspective, in terms of beyond the MENA region into Europe, Asia, or even the Americas. What is the ambition of SCAI in terms of being able to create a vast global network that allows you to continue to develop and continue to grow as a company?
I can answer this like in two parts. First, in terms of collaboration in technology, and also collaboration in terms of talent and the talent pool that we look at, especially with our clients and everyone that we are working with in the ecosystem. We want to ensure that we have a diverse talent pool that we look at when we're looking at the talent identification, for example. Same thing, it goes to the technologies. We want to make sure that we have an inclusive system that we are going to use and embed within the solution that we are offering. In terms of collaboration, for example, also not only with football organization, but working with other sport organization and bringing the examples that they have done, like for example in NFL and the fan experience that they are doing, and how we can also create or replicate it for the football fans as well.
Okay. I want to give you a chance to answer a question that just came to mind, and sorry for that. But it's actually more in terms of a precise vision in terms of the field from a professional perspective and an entrepreneurial perspective. Where do you see SCAI and the whole ecosystem in terms of tech, but specifically in AI, in the next 10 years?
So SCAI have a very, I would say, great ambition when it comes to being a leader in AI globally. We're not just talking on the region. And the same goes as well for the sport tech. And this is something that we inherit already from the Vision 2030, and also from the vision that we have in terms of the huge investment being made in sport, hosting international events, investing in big names and stars, and also developing our homegrown clubs as well. And from there, we inherit our aspirational vision.
Absolutely. So the only thing that is left is to invite you all to visit SCAI right there out the door at the left.
Please do, and also we have our own jerseys, so I would love to see someone wearing it.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for this wonderful talk, and I'm surely playing this to my daughter so she starts figuring out which type of engineer she wants to be.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much, everyone, for being with us. Thank you.